I will now call to order the special board meeting of the District School Board of Collier County and the Dr. Martin.
Florida wants to ban critical race theory, but they can't define what it is.
Martin Luther King Jr. Administrative Center boardroom.
Collier County, Florida is affluent, overwhelmingly white, and twice voted overwhelmingly for Donald Trump. It seems an odd place for a row about race and political philosophy, a topic previously confined to obscure academic journals. But activists in Collier County are doing battle over the au courant culture war issue, the teaching of critical race theory, or CRT, to K-12 students.
So what is this meeting about? It's about textbooks, books filled with Marxist, communist, racially divisive ideologies.
CRT is a decades-old academic idea centering the role of racism.
I love going into the MLK boardroom to talk about critical race theory and how it's communist, dude. Ironically, Martin Luther King was a democratic socialist, but, you know, we won't talk about that.
In cultural and political life. But in the current debate, its meaning is ill-defined.
This critical race theory urges intolerance of all human beings that have been created in the image of God.
I do not agree with teaching children how to feel about things.
I'll be damned if I will allow a Marxist revolution to take place in this country, and we need to reject our children even being taught it.
The Department of Education, Corcoran personally has said that he has directed his staff to go out to all of the publishers and get this critical race theory and all of its tentacles out of the existing materials that have been approved.
Keith Flaw is the founding director of the Florida Citizens Alliance, a conservative group that crusades against curricula it deems insufficiently patriotic or excessively progressive.
What did you see in those two books that you looked at? What did you object to?
Critical race theory. What critical race theory boils down to is teaching kids to hate their friends, teaching them to focus on race rather than focus on character.
So let's look at some of these examples from the K-5 books that you were objecting to the other day.
What I did was go through the teacher's manuals that are used to teach these books. And what you find is that it builds the foundation for critical race theory, not on the 3 words of critical race theory, but it builds the foundation on culturally responsive training, equity versus equality, social justice. So those are all innocuous terms.
I fucking hate that, man. I hate it. Wow. So terrible. Dude, how do these people say stuff like this? Like, don't you feel even a little bit embarrassed? How do you not feel even a little embarrassed to just be like, yeah, I hate equity, dude. I absolutely hate equity. I hate social justice. Like, don't you realize you sound like a fucking asshole, dude?
In many people's minds, but when you look at how the left is now using those to drive the whole perspective of critical race theory.
What is the sentence in here?
I'm not sure there is one.
There isn't.
The terms, see, that's where most
No, I don't even mean the terms. I mean the concepts. What in the book conceptually do you object to that teachers will read this off?
Culturally responsive training is a whole notion in the book. Equity versus equality is a whole notion.
But that's in the book that the kids will read.
No, that's in the book the teachers are using as a guide to teach the kids.
Do you have the section where it says...
Wait, even if that's the truth, why is that bad? Like, that's the question I want to ask this guy. Like, why do you think that's a bad thing? Can you explain to me how you think that, like, kids learning about America's, like, racist history is a bad thing? Like, how is that going to, like, how is that harming people? Like, I can't connect that dot. You know what I mean? There's dots there. I just can't connect it. I'm missing a puzzle piece. The puzzle piece is, of course, racism in his mind. It's just like, bam!
Much more.
Shove it right in there.
Something about equity over equality. Is equity mentioned in the teacher's guide?
I don't recall. Equity, culturally responsive training is clearly identified.
What is culturally responsive training? What does that mean?
Culturally responsive training is a fancy term for...
A motherfucker didn't even read it, dude. He just, like, a keyword search.
For multiculturalism, dividing people by ethnicity.
Where is this from?
This is from the homework our team did.
So that's your language, not the language of the textbook.
It's language we found in the literature. I don't know what you're looking for, Mike.
I don't see anything in here that says that they're teaching critical race theory.
This is all very subtle. We've said that from the beginning. Critical race theory is a very subtle ideology that permeates. This is identity-based racism, Marxism. If it looks like a duck, talks like...
Oh, it's very subtle, dude. It's a very subtle thing. It's insidious. It's so subtle you can't even see it. You know, you gotta... That's why we made it up. It's like you haven't identified why the concepts that you are criticizing are bad. You just assume that we agree with you. Okay? Like, he's not even saying, like, teaching children the concept of equity is a bad thing. Okay? These are like the people that get mad at, like, La Fontaine tales. You know what I mean? Like, oh, the Disney's trying to make your child a socialist by teaching you to share. Why can't they be a fucking relentless douchebag like I am? Like a terrified douchebag, and instead teaching children sharing is caring. What the fuck? Sick and tired of it, folks. That's actually a funny bit. I'm going to start doing that, where it's just like old colloquialisms from the past. Turn the other cheek? Yeah, how about my ass cheek? That's what I turn to communism. When I get hit, I don't turn the other cheek. I take out my fucking shotgun. Sick and tired of it. Sharing is caring. What is this? Communist China, Russia? Huh? Sick and tired of it, brother. Everybody's equal. Hell no.
like a duck and walks like a duck, it's a duck.
Despite a lack of specific examples, and in the face of organized citizens, the board delayed approving material it previously found unobjectionable, on a curious technicality.
I do feel very strongly about this, so I'd like to make a motion to defer the vote today.
None opposed? All right. Thank you all.
Jen Mitchell is the vice chair of the...
Bro, this person does not have anyone remotely like school-aged, okay? You're 70, you're not even 70, you're like 97 years old, okay? The last time someone that you know went to school, black people and white people were not allowed to be at school together, okay? Your great-great-great-great-grandchildren are at school. Is that why you're upset? They're learning about CRT. Like, what are you doing there, lady? What the fuck are you doing there?
Thank you all.
Jen Mitchell is the vice chair of the Collier County School Board.
It's not the book itself. In fact, you said it was a pretty good book.
It's a great book. I objected to material that I saw on their website that I was alerted to by a citizen. It's very...
This is so funny. I was alerted to the materials. I saw it said we believe in social justice. I mean, what the fuck does that mean? No.
Clearly speaking about BLM and all of these very controversial areas around race. Now that we're aware that the publisher took this position, maybe there are some things that might jump off the page and appear to be maybe not appropriate if we take a look again.
Like what?
Knowing what we know now. So I think we just need to do the best that we can to kind of create this bubble around.
Dude, they are such fucking snowflakes, dude. Like, the mere mention of black people's existence as human beings is enough for these people to fucking lose their goddamn minds, okay? We need to create a safe space where, you know, we don't cover history from the point of view of, like, black people ever, okay?
Around our kids and keep that type of stuff out of the classroom.
Meeting adjourned at 1:20.
Just days after the Collier County School Board erupted in acrimony, the Florida State Board courted controversy when it took up new rules explicitly banning K-12 teachers from, quote, teaching critical race theory.
Instruction must be factual, objective, and not suppress or distort significant historic events such as the Holocaust, slavery, Civil War, Reconstruction. Okay, good. Examples of theories that distort historical events are inconsistent with the state board approved standards, including denial or minimizing of the Holocaust and the teaching of critical race theory. What? He's like, no Holocaust denial, but fucking slavery denial is A-okay. The impact of slavery, can't teach it. I mean, at least they haven't got to the point where they're like literally denying or minimizing the Holocaust, so... Meaning that the theory that racism is not merely the product of prejudice, but that racism is embedded in American society and its legal systems in order to uphold the supremacy of white persons.
The measure had been championed by Florida governor and likely 2024 presidential candidate Ron DeSantis, who kicked off the meeting.
So I know you guys are going to consider the critical race theory, prohibition, and obviously that's something that we've been supportive of in my office. We've got to have an education system that is preferring fact over narratives.
Both sides of the debate claim a monopoly on truth, typically in stark contrast to their opponents, who are said to traffic in lies and propaganda, though few proffer a definition of what exactly constitutes truth in history.
The proposed amendment that you all are looking at requires that teachers define American history based on standards in the Declaration of Independence. At that time in our history, black people were property, and they weren't even considered to be people.
Teaching the facts will bring the country together, not divide the country. Do we need more critical race theory if that's what it means?
Dude, for these people, okay, look, they're in Florida, so that's strike one. They're Republicans, strike two. What you need to remind, not the people that are talking, but like I'm talking about like Ron DeSantis and people like him. For them, it's like slavery happened because of bad people that had bad ideas, and they got together and did the bad thing, but it was always, it started and ended with like bad individuals. Yeah. But of course, some people who did slavery and practiced practiced slavery were also not that bad. Like, you know, they felt some type of way about it. Like George Washington, for example, like, he wasn't bad. He was, you know, like it wasn't that bad actually when George Washington did it. But like when other people did it, it was bad. But like kind of, I can't really pinpoint exactly who was bad. Like this is literally the way that they obfuscate. This is the way that they want to cover. This is the way that American conservatives want to cover slavery. Okay? Like some people were bad and that's why they did the bad thing and slavery was bad, but it also wasn't that bad because they didn't think that it was bad at the time. And yeah, like all of a sudden there is no answer to why it happened. The left hates diversity of opinions. Are you being serious right now? We're watching a video about legislators deleting, like doing their very best to unironically delete like an accurate depiction of history and how it relates to like modern day. That person was joking, right? Like when they said the left hates diversity of opinion.
I mean, teaching the truth. We need more of that in schools.
This is a deliberate plan to politicize and whitewash history.
Thank you, Mr. Fraser.
Stop it.
Susan Eric Kirk.
We say
your time is up. Thank you.
Allow teachers to teach the truth. Allow teachers to teach the truth. Allow teachers to teach the truth.
Allow teachers to teach the truth.
Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute recess because the court reporter needs it. Ma'am, Mrs. Actor, we will come to you when we come back in.
The protesters failed to stop the anti-CRT move, and the board went a step further than originally expected, passing a version of the amendment that prohibited teaching the New York Times' controversial 1619 project.
With that, I appreciate everybody being here, and we stand adjourned.
We discovered that less than an hour after passing the new rules, members of the board still seemed unclear on what they had just approved.
One of the things that's slightly troubling is the 1619 project is explicitly banned as resource material at all in the school. Does that mean you can't even discuss it?
Can a teacher bring it up and discuss it? I'm sure they could. It doesn't ban that. It bans it as the basis of the curriculum. Mm-hmm. It's not to be taught in the classroom. Nothing we did today was about excluding or banning or preventing anyone from reading.
Pretty. They believe that the alleged social division and mental demoralization of lessons that focus on it will be more harmful to minorities and whites than it would benefit. Yeah, that's a fucking idiotic take, dude. Like that, I'm sorry, that's like a demonstrably false and moronic take, and that's more so because they feel shameful about what white people have done in the past, and partially want to continue whitewashing that aspect of history in an effort to deny its historical significance in contemporary society. That's it. So they can turn around and say black people are crying for no reason, slavery ended, black people are crying for no reason because, like, you know, the civil rights movement happened already, and that's it. That's the real reason why they want to just keep saying like it's over. Why don't you fucking pick yourself up by your bootstraps? And that is the real reason why they're doing it. So I'm sorry, I'm not going to sit here and act like they have this this actual cohesive idea on why they think this is bad. Okay? That's a justification that they try to put forward, but it's a false one. And it's not even fucking real, too. Like, most of them don't even think that. Sorry.
He specifically says you cannot.
It cannot be used as the basis for the curriculum.
Not exactly. The amendment is vague, stating that instruction may not utilize material from the 1619 project. And this sentiment is spreading. Anti-CRT related statutes have passed in 8 states and are currently under consideration in dozens more. And they're often written in broad and unspecific language, raising concerns about free speech rights and academic freedom.
Some of them are laughably unconstitutional, and some of them are probably actually already banning things that are already banned.
We spoke with Greg Lukianoff, a First Amendment lawyer and president of FIRE, a group that
This is a reactionary ass fucking organization too. I'm surprised that he's not like, or wait, maybe he is actually anti-CRT.
monitors and legally challenges abridgments to speech in education.
Like, what is driving this kind of mania that's all happening right now?
Yeah, critical race theory isn't the best term for what they're reacting to. Now, I've heard from parents all over the country with concerns about pretty aggressive identity politics coming in. And they don't, understandably, they don't want their little kid being told when they're 8 that they're responsible for...
See, I told you. I fucking told you he's a reactionary, dude. Understandably, they don't want their kid to be told this.
Slavery.
This guy's literally, this organization was built around like the campus mania back in like, 2016, pre-2016, like that era where conservatives originally were talking about how like college campuses were liberal safe havens, and it was all like leftist Marxist shit. Remember, that was the big poppin' thing. It was the first like anti-SJW thing that most of you remember. Probably like college campuses are too accommodating to trans people and black people. What about our diversity of opinion? And then it moved on to Antifa, and now nobody fucking talks about Antifa anymore. I wonder why. And now we're talking about CRT because conservatives are very good at like grabbing on and creating manufacturing outrage around a fucking thing that is completely ridiculous. And then that's all you fucking talk about. You can't shut the fuck up.
That being said, some of these laws are popping up before there's really been a problem related to it. And so the CRT laws that have been passed so far are just so sloppily drafted. It leads their opponents to actually argue, does this mean we can no longer talk about slavery?
That's kind of troubling, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And the argument that it's chilling speech is almost certainly true. With my lawyer hat on, can they do that? Almost certainly, unfortunately. Supreme Court law, when it comes to the rights of K-12 teachers, they're very weak.
That's the thing that troubles me about this. Is like, you can't use that material.
Yeah.
Strikes me as like, okay, well, how do I know that it's wrong unless I read it?
The big part of this is the complete lack of trust that the culture war has bred.
You're teaching children to hate others because of their skin color.
They're afraid that K-12 teachers, that cohort has become so radicalized that they can't be trusted to teach it in a way that is actually pedagogically sound. I'm willing to bet that's going to happen sometimes, but you shouldn't assume that's going to happen every time. You can't have serious discussions.
I have seen curriculum.
He's willing to bet that that's going to happen sometimes? What?
For students as young as 4 years old, where they are teaching them this ideology.
I talk about we live in certain times, and people think of like, oh, you mean uncertain times. No. There is a great deal of moral and ideological certainty at this moment. And that's why people are scared, because if you come from the point of view of certainty, you're saying, oh my God, we're not teaching them the noble truths of the founding of the United States. But if you come from the other side saying that we're not teaching the fundamental truths about the evil of the United States, it's understandable why people don't trust each other on these topics. It's just going to get more and more ferocious because everybody is culture warrior 24 hours a day now.
I mean, ironic that the fucking guy that created a foundation from the original like culture war fight, college campuses like censoring speech or whatever the fuck conservatives used to cry about back in the day, is talking about critical race theory, which is the current iteration of that very same culture war and that very same idiocy from the exact same people. And now he's like, oh, people are just like constantly doing culture war 24/7. Pretty sure FIRE is pro CRT, not following you. FIRE is a reactionary organization. I don't give a fuck that this guy, or in this iteration, now that like censorship in college campuses is no longer the fashionable thing, I don't care that like he has rounded out his points of view in order to make dumb liberals like you come across as sympathetic to dumb liberals like you, okay? That's why he's hitting it from the both sides angle, okay? He literally is just pivoting to the new grift while still maintaining some of the aspects of the old grift. Please stop. You're in here. It's obvious that you're smarter than the average person, I hope, especially when it comes to like identifying these sorts of idiotic grifts.
All these daily streams, whether big or whether small. So there he is again. Hasan is streaming. Hasan is streaming.